Shay, Shay. Thank you. I love that one. I love it.
Beautiful. Gratitude. Thank you, gratitude.
That one was pretty special.
Yeah. Next is Farah. I spent some time with Farah and her family yesterday to talk about this technology. This right here is the most amazing medical device ever created. We can literally get rid of doctors unless we break our arms, cut our fingers off. And I wanted to see it firsthand, like it was so wild to hear this when I first learned about it and when Farah brought it to me. But yeah, Farah.
Okay, so this is my story on what was going on in my life since January, the beginning of this year, and what brought me to finding this technology, which I feel is absolutely amazing. It wasn't anything that I had heard of previously, but my story is January, and I broke this down because I started really tracking this. So on January 5th, I had returned from a trip visiting my family up north, and my husband stayed here, and we're animal lovers, so we have a bunch of animals in our house. And when I got back, I saw that our dog, our female pit bull, like her mouth looked off, like it looked like it was moved or something was wrong with her mouth. So I had asked my husband, "Did you notice this? Was she playing with the other dog? Did something happen?" And he was like, "No, I didn't notice anything." So I was like, "Okay, I'm going to take her to the doctor." So on January 8th, I took her to the vet, and the vet said, let's put her on some antibiotics and an anti-inflammatory, and I'll recheck her in 2 weeks. So January 22nd, 2 weeks later, my husband actually had a doctor's appointment that day because he knew he had some hernias. So we went to the surgeon that morning, and the surgeon was like, "Okay, let me go ahead and send you for a CT scan so that I know exactly how I'm going to proceed with the surgery." So we said, fine. He went ahead and he scheduled his CT scan for the 30th. And that same afternoon on January 22nd, I had the follow up with the vet with our dog. So I took the dog back to the vet. None of the medications did any change. She actually looked worse, like it looked more swollen. And the doctor told me, "Look, if those things didn't help, most likely it's mouth cancer. And usually, when a dog will get mouth cancer, it's very aggressive. Um, their face will start changing week by week, and it's a quick process. Usually, we don't give the dogs any more than 2 months to live because it just becomes too painful, and then it's not a quality of life. The only way that they treat this is really having surgery to remove the dog's jaw, and and then maybe they would get some chemotherapy or radiation. And we were like, we're not going to do that to our dog. Our dog is older. We're not going to put her through that. We're just, going to monitor her. Well, I went home that day and I was just, this is my baby. I have to see what I could do. Let me start changing her food. So I did start changing her food. I started making her own food, like fresh food. And I just started doing research. And I started coming across a machine called a Rife machine. And it was from an American inventor called Royal Raymond Rife. He was early in the 1920s. And I started reading about him and that he used this technology to cure stage 4 cancer patients. And all of them were cured. They went from not having cancer to he had a 100% success rate. So
1920. 1920. That,
1920.
like, come on, y'all. 1920.
So I started really researching this, and I started seeing, there's Google, and I did read stuff that oh, the American Cancer Society and American Medical Association stated that these were false claims, that these didn't really work, all these things. But then I found this company called Spooky 2. It's it's a company in China, based out of China. And I started reading that they have like a Rife machine. And I started reading just testimonies and YouTube videos about all these people using this machine for cancer and other diseases, not just cancer, like diabetes, arthritis, Alzheimer's, asthma, just all these different diseases. And this one company was like, their technology isn't, their machines aren't super cheap, but they were one of the cheapest ones. Like, there were other companies trying to sell for 10 grand, like crazy things. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do that. So I decided to really go with this company, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna buy this machine. I'm gonna order it because this is what I need to do. I don't know. I was like in panic mode because when you love somebody or a pet, we're very attached to our animals. You'll do whatever. So I was like, you know what? I've seen too many testimonies. Let me just order this machine. So on January 29th, I'm still waiting for the machine. This is still January. January 29th, I also started reading about ivermectin, that this injection that they're using for parasites to give, that it's an animal, but people are finding that it's curing cancer. So I decided, I was like, well, let me get a bottle of that. I'm going to start injecting my dog with it, once a day. I'm going to start injecting my dog with it. So I started injecting her on January 29th with this medication. On January 30th, my husband had his CT scan. So my husband went, had his CT scan, and within 2 hours, the doctor called us and said, I need you to go see a urologist. We found an incidental finding in your kidney and you have a mass. So we were freaking out. My husband was a mess. I told him to come home. Let's, just come home, let us get this appointment, because we thought he was going in for a hernia. Now we finally, on that mass, they said it was like 4.5, 0.6.2, 0.4.9, which is almost the size of like a line. So we knew it was something wrong on the kidney. Well, January 31st, I get the spooky machine. This machine comes in, but I don't use it right away because the box was damaged. I was contacting the company. I wanted to make sure that the product was working correctly before I started it. So I actually started using this device on February 8th on my husband and the dog. On February 10th, we had the appointment with the urologist, and he wanted him to do an MRI just to really get the correct size, see where it's located, and see if it's spread anywhere. So March 1st, he went and got the MRI, and it was even bigger than it showed on the CT scan. It was almost 7 centimeters large. And they were like, okay, it shouldn't be growing fast. But I said, okay, well, it was 4.5 a couple of weeks ago. Now it's 7 centimeters. This to me is a very aggressive cancer. So, but the urologist, he said, we're not gonna, this is very common, but we're gonna schedule your husband for May 5th. So I'm like panicking, like this is like a month and a half. My husband, I see this thing growing, on these documents, but I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep using this machine. I'm just gonna use it. And I just kept using the machine on my husband and also my dog. So I was going back and forth with using the machine. On February 13th, I decided, I was like, oh, let me take my dog to a cancer doctor just because I don't know. Again, panic mode. I just want them to tell me what it is. So they did test it and they did confirm it was squamous cell carcinoma in the jaw. And they said that this is super aggressive. Her face is going to start changing week by week. It's just going to grow. Eventually her gums are going to start bleeding, her teeth are going to fall out. So we just want to keep her comfortable. So I was still giving her the injection, and I realized that for a month, I did it for 1 month, that the injection really didn't seem to do anything, that her face still looked swollen. So I just stopped giving it to her because I didn't want her to be in pain, me constantly jabbing her, to put this in. I just wanted her to be comfortable. So the doctors had given me some Neurontin, like some Medicaid, gabapentin, so that she can take just for the pain. I gave her one pill because I came home and she had had a blood clot coming out of her mouth. Her gums started bleeding. And I just gave her one of those pills for the pain. And honestly, I just started really feeling like I wasted my money. This isn't working. I just really was giving up hope. But I was like, I'm just going to continue doing these treatments because this is a holistic thing. I'm just going to keep doing it because what do I have to lose at this point? I bought it. I'm going to use it. So I continued using it religiously every day, every day, every day on my dog, even more than my husband. My husband was, oh, I just came home, I can't sit down and do it. And I'm like, you got to do it, so I would force him to sit and do it, but he wasn't as consistent as we did with my dog. Well, I started taking her back to the vet, and the vet said, I really want to see her every week. I was taking her every week to the vet, and he saw that it was getting bigger, but all of a sudden it stopped growing. It, like, the mass just stopped growing, and she wasn't bleeding out of her gums anymore. And he was like, you know what? Let's do like every 2 weeks. And I said, okay, we're going to do every 2 weeks. As we were doing it every 2 weeks, he started noticing that the swelling was going down, that it was going down. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing this holistic thing, at home. He didn't really ask me what it was, but he's like, you know what, whatever you're doing, keep doing. And I was like, okay. So I continued to do this. When my husband went in, now it's like back and forth. I know I'm going back and forth. My husband now, this past May 5th, we went in, we did the surgery. They took the tumor out. They took out his whole kidney, actually. And I went and I just read the pathology report a week ago, like after we got off another call, and the tumor is actually smaller. It shrank from 7 centimeters to 4.5 centimeters, almost 3 centimeters smaller. So now we have our follow-up this week coming up, and I'm going to ask the doctor, like, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts on this? Because this general surgeon doesn't know that I was doing this treatment on him, and it literally shrank, and he was not even consistent with the treatments. And I was, putting it on. Yes, this machine also does like remote using quantum entanglement that was always running. So he's constantly getting treatments, even if he wasn't sitting there. And now with my dog, the vet said, I only want to see her every 2 months because he had given her 2 months to live in January. We're going into June. Her face completely looks
Beautiful.
like you saw it yesterday. I showed you the pictures because I was really keeping track. Her face was so swollen, and now it's flat. It's very slight, and she's like running around like a puppy again. She's just feeling great. and and now this proof, that's a dog and just seeing, but the proof of my husband's tumor, where these are medical documents stating that it was one size and now it's almost 3 centimeters smaller. I mean, I accounted to this machine that this Rife technology really works. So whatever we all know that the government is always trying to downplay new technologies, and they want us to keep us on medicine and everything like this. It has no side effects, no side effects except you getting better. And this is true proof. And this is a cancer. These are two cancers. The dog had cancer, my husband had cancer, which was wild to begin with, both of them. And they're both being healed by this. Obviously, because we live in this world, they still decided to take my husband's kidney. That's the process. But just seeing that it did shrink the kidney, that mass. And when they did the pathology report on it, it was also a very aggressive cancer. So I feel, because it was almost, when we saw it in the picture, it almost took over his whole kidney. If I wouldn't have started this, it could have spread within that month and a half we were waiting for him to have surgery. So I truly, truly believe in this technology. And this does so much more than just cancer, but obviously cancer is such a big thing in our society that I'm truly a believer of this Spooky 2, this company, and how it just helps cure so many diseases. And
Yeah.
I'm proof of this. Like, my husband and my dog are proof of this.
So I used to work for Dell Technology, and I left Dell Technology. One of the reasons I was the best salesperson Dell ever had. I told this to my neighbor earlier. I was like, in the state of Florida, that's where I worked. I worked with all the medical companies. I was in this meeting, and I believe it was with Moffitt. And because I was such at a high level, everybody in there thought that I was part of the system that they were in. So they were pretty free as far as what they were saying about us, how they're treating us, and some of the new medical things that they were trying to do. So I'm in this meeting. They're talking about how they work with the food industry and how that keeps us in this cycle to continue going to them, right? They don't want us to get out of the hospital. When you're in the hospital, the amounts of money that they charge and why they do it. But the one that really got me, family, was they started talking about doing cloning in these hospitals. They want to do this thing called a digital clone first. That means that they have all of the information. I mean, your eyes, your fingertips, your body, like every single thing that this spooky is getting access to heal you. They want to get that kind of information, put in a computer, and then one day do some of the stuff that we thought was hocus pocus, right? That's literally. So I couldn't do it anymore. I was making $350,000 a year and left because there had to be something better, and my soul would not let me do it. It wouldn't let me do it. So when Farrah started talking to me about this, I started looking into it, and started understanding a lot more. We talked about Billy Carson earlier, and Billy Carson was the first person that helped me understand what quantum entanglement was, how it works. Spooky action at a distance means there's a particle all over the planet that vibrates at the same frequency as you. And that is what this does. So like Farrah right now is running a program to give me a cleanse,
11-day cleanse. Me and you are both doing it.
He is giving me a full cleanse that's getting rid of heavy metals, parasites, and she is doing this with this device at her house in Orlando, and I'm sitting over here in Jacksonville, right? If I had a cataract issue, she could heal me in Orlando to Jacksonville. So when I say we need to have this for our families, it's because if grandma is in Panama, your uncle is in Germany, this list that you see here, we can heal our families for generations and not have to deal with these doctors and the crazy things that they're doing ever again with this technology.
Right. So let me explain. Yeah, let me explain this list. So this program has over 60,000 diseases or ailments. And each of them are associated with a certain frequency. And the programs are actually from studies from different countries, Russia, Germany. Scientists give this spooky company these frequencies to utilize in their machine. So they've already ran tests on these frequencies and saw that, yes, this works. These are the best frequencies. These are the frequencies that connect. So the way that this works is kind of like, think of an opera singer and she's singing and she shatters the glass. So what it does, it will shatter whatever that ailment or that pathogen in your body is, so that then you release it. So this is actually science based. They have scientists working on this all over the world and give these certain frequencies to Spooky to utilize it in their machines. So
it is, are migraines on this list?
yes, there's over 60,000. Whatever you could think of is here. Like I'll type in whatever, and there's frequencies for it. And what this machine also does, it also has what is called a sample digitizer, where you could take your blood sample, a urine sample. It has to be like a saliva, and it's like you put it on a slide, and the machine will run your sample through its database, through all the frequencies, and whatever it finds, it brings out like the top 10 that it says that it hit. And it brings out a whole list of top 10, and then it creates a program specific for you to utilize, whether it's the plasma tube or the PEMF coil that you could lay on. It has different attachments that you could utilize, but it also will run and find what is going on in your body, which you may not even know about. And then it creates the program for you to utilize it.
Yeah.
What
She ran
was
one for
the
me
price
yesterday.
of the one that you got? if
The
you don't
one
mind me
I
asking?
got is like the most expensive, and it was
Yeah, it's right here.
3,100. But even 3,100, if you're saving on doctor's visits, if you're saving on medication, if you're able to utilize this for multiple people in your family, how many times do we go and just spend money on medicine? And the reason, like, they have cheaper ones, but because I got the more expensive one was because of the plasma tubes. The plasma tubes, when I did my education on trainers and stuff like that, they said that these plasma tubes were the ones that work the best to fight cancer.
Yeah.
Like, you could use for, if you're not worried about cancer and you're just looking for something, something else, you don't have to get the most expensive ones.
Exactly.
They have ones for $500.
So I did pull it up so that you can go to Lineage Brand and find everybody that's spoken today and also other spiritual leaders. So you can go here, click on this, find spiritual leaders and all kinds of different categories and segments. But if you go to this quantum health and healing, you can go here and find, there's 5 different kits. I only put 3 in there. So the high end, the middle, and the kind of the starter kit.
Yeah, you
This
see,
starter
there's a
kit
kit
for 300.
there's that starter kit for $344 that still comes with the remote, where you could put a sample like your nail, put it in there, and it gives you the frequency. So you don't have to get the highest one. I got the highest one just because I wanted to tackle the cancer. And when I did my research with the company, this one was unique. Like, these tubes is what Royal Rife used himself in the 1920s to cure the cancer. So they replicated his same technology with this system. So that's why I got the more expensive one. But the starter kits, if you want for migraines, if you want for arthritis, for other types of ailments,
like the
you could get
$344 will do everything that $988 will do, that $3,000 will do. The 3,000 just will take care of the cancer. The 1,000 will do more people because it has 2 machines instead of 1. So you can be running programs for yourself and your child at the exact same time. But
Wow.
this $344 literally can keep our families out of the hospital system. Literally can
Wow.
keep our families out of the hospital system. You know,
Right.
so for more information, just hit me up and we can talk more. But you know that I'm here. I'm back on this planet to help this planet evolve. This is how we evolve. We don't evolve, continue taking their medicines that have 60 different side effects to heal one thing.
I know.
That makes no sense. And then one of
I'm
the side
so
effects
over
is
it
death.
too. I
You
really
know,
am.
like what? What? Yes. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you so much, Farrah. I appreciate you and
Thank
allowing me to
you.
come
Thank
over
you,
and spend
Farrah.
time with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we got one more, but right before, let's get some more poetry from the goddess Anahata.
All right. This piece is entitled Trust, and it's more of an open piece. Breath in my lungs, water through my veins, vibration hits my feet, fire in my soul. I'm the avatar. Morph reality new. Change these tools, many or few, language of the universe. Maktub. It is written. I am the alchemist. Sun within darkness, magic in the forest, sea without sight. All that ever is, I am the universe. Rhythm of trees, life dancing simultaneously. Rainy days, clear nights. I'm nature. Be what not, but all there is, a birthright sitting rightfully left of ours. Shall you not have the fruits, millennia of labor, when we are the fruit that grew the fruit, a symbiosis? No one can understand it better. Is there a love sweeter, a care kinder, a love deeper than gifts from the gods and goddesses that be? Preposterous to believe that a force greater than we, unless a God comes back to show, but alas, God is me, and I show everything. Let melanin birth inherit the earth. I am it, and it is mine. All is me. We are one, and we live simultaneously. Ashe.
Yay.